All right, so we're live on Facebook, we're live on Instagram. Let's get started. This week we have Reginald Chapman with us. It's really exciting. So Reginald Chapman, to talk a little bit about him. Reginald Chapman Jr. resides in New York City. He's a freelancer and multi-brass, multi-instrumentalist, composer, and educator who received his BA in bass trombone from Virginia Commonwealth University and his MM and DMA in jazz bass trombone for the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign under the tutelage of Jim Pugh. Reginald enjoys interfacing with a variety of situations and genres. His career includes a long list of studio credits and extensive tour itineraries with brass bands like Lucky Chops, No BS Brass, and indie rock groups, as well as Broadway. He plays on Frozen, and classical and jazz performances. When not touring, he teaches and schedules his own performances. So he's, before the quarantine, was very easy to catch everywhere.
You can still catch me.
You can still catch him. You're catching him now. And then, so in 2018, he released his debut album, Prototype, which we'll be talking about today. And he's been praised by Downbeat and Spotify's State of Jazz and featured on Fox's Empire. He's also a BAC artist and plays a custom prototype model bass trombone that he's worked on developing with Mike Corrigan.
He's also a founding member of the No BS Brass Band. And Reginald's compositions, vocals, and bass trombone sounds can be heard on Where Stiff On from 2007, Alive in Richmond from 2009, No BS from 2010, and Brass Knuckles from 2015.
So can we were kind of getting into it a little bit before like we started the stream, but I'm curious to know like what have you been doing during this quarantine?
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. It's like a weird version of like Groundhog's Day or something. Yeah, because I mean, I live in Brooklyn. I live in Bed-Stuy. We're one of the red zones out here, and I think we have 2 hospitals here in Bed-Stuy that are obviously servicing a lot of people. It's kind of sad. And so, you know, at first we were going on walks, but now we're going on walks maybe every 3 days. I'm here with my wife, Miss, at Brooklyn Library on Twitter and Steam Librarian on Instagram. She's doing some cool stuff for the Department of Education. But yeah, so I guess a typical day is I wake up when I wake up, which is kind of nice because I haven't had that type of life in a long time, you know? So I've been getting more than like 5 or 6 hours of sleep, and I don't really stay up super late. I wake up and I can't play until 1 o'clock. I can only play between 1 and 5, so that my window of playing is about 4 hours. And so I do a lot of side work, planning for, you know, what am I going to do as far as content. I have a lot of projects that are just have been slowly coming together over time. So now I'm organizing a lot of my productions, deciding if they're demos or are they going to be something that I'm going to continue to flesh out, talking to people, talking to family, listening. I've been listening to a lot of, I got so many vinyl records that I haven't really taken the time to listen to. So I've just been sitting and trying to listen to full albums with no interruptions, you know, get a coffee or a water and just from, you know, one side to the other, and really some focus, like intentional listening, which has been great. I've been checking out Beethoven's 13th. Somehow I got a score. You know, I have a few scores, so I've been checking out Beethoven's 13th string quartet with the score and just trying to watch it and listen to it and really get inside it. I think I'm gonna start to like hand write it out on some score paper and you know, just trying to use this time to stay focused, use it as an opportunity. You know, that's around, you know, all of that before 12, trying to do some stretching and exercise, you know. And then around 1 o'clock, that's when I get in. I've been giving these Skype lessons or FaceTime or whatever the person happens to use. You can go to my website. I'm not supposed to say that, but anyways, but yeah, I've been giving these lessons and it's been really cool. Lots of young bass trombone players and tuba players, a few older musicians also coming and asking me questions. It's been pretty awesome. That's been a motivation to continue to make more educational content. Which, if you go to my social media, like you'll see. And it's also kind of brought me back to fundamentals. So outside of giving Skype lessons, super grateful for, because not everybody has the opportunity to like rebound, and I think especially as tech savvy musicians, there are ways, as long as we take the time to to find them. But some people, they have to, their jobs are done for the time being, so I'm super grateful for that. um and then I've been recording albums that I've been piecing together for a long time, so I take that time to record stuff for myself. And then a lot of friends are sending me stuff for licensing. Like I did a NFL commercial today, which is really cool. Did some Tenerbone playing on that. Earlier I had done tuba and bass trombone. He just sends me the Logic file, the file that I used to record. I record it and I send it back, put it in Dropbox. And then same more was it more critics as well. So yeah, that then afterwards I have dinner with my wife and we watch the Tiger King, and then and then and then I go to bed, and then I sleep for like longer than I've ever slept ever before, and then I wake up and do it again. And so no, it's cool. I've just been trying to keep goals and keep making content and keep engagement, which has been a lot of fun.
That's so great. Oh, I want to give a quick shout out. It looks like the one and only Mr. Dave Taylor is tuning in.
Oh my goodness, Dave
Hi,
Taylor.
Dave
What's up,
Taylor.
Dave? Oh no.
Bad.
You didn't hear any of that playing, did you, Dave? I know I dropped like half a beat at the beginning of the first chorus. Sheesh. Dang.
Watch Ozark. He says, watch Ozark. I'll be sure to tune into Ozark.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool,
so
cool.
we wanted to talk to you just a little bit about some of your experiences in the musical world, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, let's go.
So I just first question is just like, can you just talk for a little bit about touring life, especially like because we all know that you're one of the founding members of No BS Brass Band. That's correct.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that is correct.
So just talk about touring a little bit. I know you tour with Lucky Chops as well.
Yeah, man. It's so the way it started, and just stop me. I can get long-winded. I could just sit here and talk about myself all day. I'm just kidding. No, but anyways, so touring for me, I guess touring started like way back undergrad. We used to I was in this indie rock band. No, it was a punk ska band called Murphy's Kids. That was probably the craziest touring I ever did up to date. And I was playing bass trombone and ska band. It was awesome. We played hippie jam band festivals, and it was mostly around between Baltimore, West and Western Virginia, and then like Richmond area. Those were our. And then there's a few times we came up to New York. So did a lot of stuff with them early on. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of we're young, sleeping in the van, you come up, you like play your show, hang out at some random apartment with some random people you just met, and and then go home. Yeah, and I'm really glad that I did it, and I'm glad. My mom at some point though, she was like, when are y'all gonna get hotel rooms? And she was right, and so same with No BS Brass. The touring started smaller. It was usually one-offs, little small one-offs, and then the radius just got bigger and bigger and bigger. We were doing tours in Europe and everything, and so all of that. Again, from the beginning, it was a lot of sleeping. There was a few times where like, hey, anybody want to like have a band at their house? Like anybody got somewhere to sleep? Or we would just drive through the night, like, and people just have to take shifts. We had this band. Our first bus was called the Meat Wagon. There's actually a song about it, and it's an old retirement home bus. You know what I'm talking about, with like, it's almost like like with the long windows, and Lance, our drummer, had gutted it and like refitted, so it was actually awesome on the inside. But it was old. They were like, if you're going up an incline, like, so if we were going to I remember, where were we playing? What's the anywhere past West Virginia, all the inclines were going like 25 miles per hour.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, which is really sad. And then I remember one of the inner dualies busted and blew a hole through the floor, and our lead trumpet player, like, it was like, oh, almost died, and yeah. So I mean, but those are the days, like, those are the homies, like, we've all known each other since 2004. When we were, when I first started my undergrad. I'm an old man. Not some of you guys weren't even born in 2004.
Oh my God.
But anyways, yeah, and then so it just kept progressing, and next thing you know, I'm playing songs that I wrote when I was in my early 20s, broke, at home, songs that I wrote through like our like progressive, our own collective uh experiences and struggles and triumphs, where we're playing like, sold out festivals in Europe, and they're freaking out and they're singing the words and all that stuff, and yeah, so it's really great. So moving forward from that, I guess the next level of touring I ever did was with this band called Foxygen. It's an indie rock band
Mm-hmm.
from out in LA. They're on the Jaguar label, which I don't know if you know the band Bon Iver,
Yes.
Justin Vernon. So they're on that label. And that was my first like actual bus tour, where we had our own bunks in the bus, like,
Mm-hmm.
and the bunk room, and the back lounge, and there's like a little kitchenette in there, and the little living room that like pops out, when
Living
you
that
stop
bougie
it.
tour life.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you know what? Tour life is never bougie, though. That's the real thing. Like, even the bougie, there's no writer in the world that can, like, after like, after a few months on the road, it just like it gets you, like, it's fun. And so that was, and that was all in the United States. And then I guess the tour that's taken the cake is most recently with the Lucky Chops homies. We did 7 weeks in Europe, 7 weeks straight. And we talk about Groundhog's Day, like so the way the bus tours work is uh, you're sleeping while the bus driver is driving, and then when you wake up, you're in your next destination, which is pretty dope. So like, imagine like we're in Croatia, and then we make our way down to I can't think of the second place we went to. What was that? Either way, was it Sofia, Bulgaria, and then straight to Venice, and then to Rome, and then to Milano, and then to, like, night after. I'm waking up in these like amazing timeless European cities every day. And so no matter how tired I am, I'm like, whoa, I'm only going to be here once. I need to go see this. I need to go see that. And so a lot of the times you wake up in the morning, you're there, you find the coffee on your, your Maps app, go get your coffee, go see something, load in, sound check, eat dinner, play the gig, hang out a little bit afterwards, bus call, wake up, find coffee, go see something, load in, sound check, play the gig, and just straight for 7 weeks, which is fun because you meet so many amazing people, and your chops you get those tour chops. I just stopped warming up. Like, it just stopped warming up, which is fine. Like, and you play the same show over and over and over again, which is different though, because it's it's a brass band. Like, I can still make all of my decisions, and
Mm-hmm.
so we're always throwing each other curveballs and stuff, but still, so yeah, that's kind of the extent. I did my own tour with my pressure fit band, my Midwest pressure fit band. It was a 2-week tour about 2 years ago. And that was the most intense thing ever, like having to deal with all of the I had to rough up the doorman at the end of the night and get our money, and I had to do this and I'll do this. And it was a good thing I had my band was like killing, and they're chill. I didn't have to like run after anybody. But being the tour manager and being in the band, being the band leader at the same time while having to deal with so many things is kind of intense. So hats off to anybody who does that.
We had one question last week. I immediately thought of you. Can you talk about like your transition over from like being broke, just the transition crossing over into jazz, because I don't think anybody starts on jazz bass trombone.
Oh yeah. Well, Wyatt has started on
Oh,
bass
that's
trombone.
true.
That's
Bass
true,
trombone.
Wyatt. Boy,
Jesus,
yeah.
these youngsters are starting on jazz bass trombone. Uh, yeah. I have a student in high school. His name is Ivory. He kind of scares the crap out of me. It's not fair. Okay,
Up.
so my whole thing was I started I play bass trombone primarily, and it's funny because I actually have it here. I have to show it to you guys. The first horn I played on was an Olds student model bass trombone, which to them at the time that was a trigger horn. And it's an Olds Ambassador, I believe. It was a single trigger horn with a dual bore slide, but it was it's still a small bore. But they were
Oh.
yeah, and so that's my tenor bone now, actually, and I'll have to
Oh.
show it to you guys. Yeah, it's so funny because my band director from middle school, he gave it to me like 2 years ago, and Mike flipped it. So all right, so check this out. This was the single trigger tenor
Oh,
a
yeah.
small horn
Mhm.
that was supposed to be a student model bass trombone, and so Mike put an extra valve on it.
Oh wow.
And he cut the bell. There's a flare, so he added this is a nickel flare that I've got here. I have the original flare over there. And so yeah, this started out as a really crappy like old horn. So anyways, I'm about this because this was the first horn that I ever played. So I actually started on bass trombone technically, even though it's a small bore horn.
Yeah.
But either way, so and then ninth grade, my high school band director gave me a bass trombone and double valved Yamaha. And I remember it had a rose brass bell, independent. Went through school. I loved everything, classical jazz, all the stuff. Tried to take some jazz lessons. It was all right. Like I love give me some modal stuff, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then I went to Virginia Commonwealth University. I wanted to study music ed I really wanted to study performance, but the practical thing to do was to study music ed. Um, I wanted to have a jazz concentration, but that didn't quite exist at the time. So I became a classical bass trombonist, and so in school, that's why I worked on my Lebedev and I worked on the David Fetter Spain and I still to this day, I shouldn't say this, but you know what? I'm not going to say it. I worked on my I worked on my excerpts. I'll just say that,
Yeah.
But my Bach cello suite and all of that stuff. And I'm glad I did because it really gave me a great foundation. I still play. So Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia, and I still played a lot outside of school. I played with this band called Yo Mama's Brass Band, which turned into No BS Brass after some sort of thing that I'm not going to talk about. But no, but it was great. It was a great proving ground. We learned, we played a weekly gig, and we learned all the Rebirth tunes and all of that stuff, and then some original stuff. Sorry, guys. And then I had my own group. I had this group called UTV Chamber, which included a lot of people that are killing it, right? Like guys who are in Butcher Brown and people like from No BS Brad and people who've gone on to do amazing things. So I was always into writing music. Believe it or not, both Hoodie and Brass Scene Kids. Hoodie there's a version of Hoodie on a 2008 No BS Brass record. So, and then Brass Scene Kids I think is also on that same record. And that video that we put the audio tree, that didn't pop until 2016. So like, like we were just out here being creative and making music, and I didn't know, quote unquote, no theory, but because of our, the way we worked on there's not a whole lot of like jobbing gigs where people like play standards and stuff. Everyone is just creative, and you go and you play your music. In my opinion, that's why a lot of in my opinion, that's why a lot of great original music comes out of Richmond, Virginia. It's because it's an incubator, and that's how people, you don't have to. I mean, since moving to New York, I've had so many times where it's just like, yo, can you play on Saturday? And like, yeah, all right, here's like 3 hours of music you got to memorize. And it's like, all right, that's cool. And then I play the gig and I get my check and I go home. And that's great. And I love it. And I'm paying my bills or whatever. But imagine like when you're playing and hanging with people playing original music, and you let it grow and let it simmer over years and years and years. And it becomes like a local standards,
Yeah.
And so so all throughout I was really into free music, the UTV chamber, and also there's this band called Trio of Justice, that leader of No BS Brass, Reggie Pace, and uh, the guy who founded Butcher Brown, Devon Harris. We had a trio. I was playing tuba, free jazz tuba. And that was a lot of fun. It was kind of like a Sons of Kemet type thing. I think there might be some videos online still. Also was yeah, just doing all the Space Bomb stuff. There's a lot of indie rock stuff, like the Megaphon. I'm on that album, and uh yeah, all of that stuff. There's a huge creative thing there. So in spite of not having quote unquote jazz training, I was still being creative, mostly using my ear and playing what I felt and all that. And then in 2006, excuse me, when was that? 2011. That's when Jim Pugh came to University of Illinois, and we played. VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, and we do a concertant together. I don't know if Dave is still watching, but I used to love that video, and I watched that video so many times that I kind of I guess I killed it when I played it with Jim. And Jim was like, "Whoa, you sound great." I played him Brassine Kids before there was a video, and he was like, "What in the world?" And he offered me a fellowship to go to the University of Illinois. And that's my first year at U of I. Well, I've just to set the record straight. I've had a full tuition waiver for the entirety of my graduate career at U of I, including my master's and doctoral degree.
Amazing.
So I haven't had to pay a cent, which is awesome. My first year, they paid me monthly to go. So not only did I have to pay, but I didn't even have it wasn't even a TA. I was just getting a check just for being a weird bass trombone player, which is kind of dope.
Good life.
Yeah. So I went out there, and it was so funny because there was a lot of respect, and the community respected me. But I just remember being they put me in one of the top small jazz ensembles, and I remember the first day they put the chord sheet in front of me, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. And so I'm just sitting here just trying to hear my way through Wayne Shorter tunes and all this advanced yoga theory jazz and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, which was cool, and the teachers were awesome, and it was fun. And I remember so my friend Ben Ford, who was he just sat down, and we would just play through standards, and he would kind of we would just chill, but he would kind of kick my butt a whole lot and be like, yo man, I noticed this, I noticed that. I didn't know anything about arranging outside of arranging with my friends. With No BS, we didn't nothing none of the No BS stuff has been written down until the most recent albums. We showed up, and I don't know if that was just because we were at 280D or whatever, but we show up and it's hey, here's an idea, or I'd make a really crappy GarageBand demo or something, and then we'd all learn it. But that was also part of the magic of it, is everybody's memorizing their part from the get-go, and then those parts start to transform and meld over time as people forget and remember, and then ultimately they become better, and they got that sag, they got that personal sag, because this is your part, and so I just taking arranging classes, and that's where the version of Hoodie for Prototype came from. Is Ben Ford helped me arrange it. I had no idea, I didn't know what the chords were called, I didn't know any of that stuff, and we sat down together and wrote it out and arranged it. And there's a lot of stuff I kind of went back and reverse engineered and realized oh, these are the sounds that I'm hearing. But yeah, so going to U of I was weird because I don't know if this is a Midwest college thing or just this or whatever. I'm not trying to like talk crap about anybody, but they really let's just say they really appreciate language. And basically, if you don't sound like you're playing some post bop, J.J. Johnson, or something that was written out of in my opinion, written out of the David Baker book, or like something Charlie Parker would have played, then it's not viable. I felt that way from the community at large. My professors are always supportive, but especially a lot of my peers, and it makes sense. Everybody's trying to get their like standards on, you know what I mean? Like you want someone who's like playing thirds and sevens and like tritone subs and like playing all this, you know what I'm saying? That's what you want. So so they can, you're playing your Art Blakey cover band. Like you want someone sounding like Curtis Fuller. You don't want someone sounding like themselves from the East Coast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was definitely kind of weird going from playing every night in Richmond, Virginia, where people were like all about being inventive. Matter of fact, if you sounded like you were trying to cop someone else, like people weren't like, they're like, yo, that's like tired, bro. Why don't you play something like new,
Right.
To go into a place where, museum jazz was like really important. And I'm not talking crap. I'm just saying that it's kind of bummed me out. And so I had a professor, Tito Carrillo. I and so I love Robin Eubanks. I actually recently hit him up for a lesson, like on Instagram, like I'm some kid or something. I'm like, Mr. Eubanks. No, but no, but really, like it's if I could be Robin Eubanks, I totally would, And then the more I know like about him and the M bass stuff and all of that stuff, I'm just like, yeah, it's so killing. So that's kind of what I base my sound off loosely. And Tito showed me a video of Robin with who was it? With Art Blakey, and he sounds like JJ playing over a blues. And he was just like, yo, check this out. And it really messed me up. I was like, all right, I see. And then like from that point, I'm like, all right, well, if it's good enough for
Oh.
so no, but really on some real but for real. So that's when I started to really try and take playing quote unquote language and making sure that like I'm playing my thirds and sevens on the downbeat, and memorizing 2/5s like seriously. And it was kind of in a weird devastating to my playing and my swag, even to a point where like some of the was like, dang dude, I think we might have messed you up a little bit. um but it was a good like step back, because after having to struggle and just like make sure I'm playing the quote unquote right stuff, it made it so now I can make the changes and I can at least dabble into some, into some language or whatever, or I can base what my creative decisions off of pathways that were like forged before me. If I need to sit in and someone points at a tune that I've never played before, I can read the changes, like, and these days it's not even just about being a bass trombone player. It's about being a total musician, as Gina, see, look, she didn't even say anything. They put the little thing on her, even though she didn't even say anything, just because of that face. No, but that's it. And I mean, and that's basically, I didn't really play tuba before coming to New York. But I had friends that would hire me because they knew that I could learn the stuff quick. If they told me to take it up a whole step, I could take it up a whole step. If they just wanted to be like, yo, like, oh, it's this song 1 4 5, and then on the bridge it goes here 2 5 to 6, blah blah blah, and I'm like, I got you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And which is can give you a heads up or give you an edge over someone who may at the time have a better tone quality than you, but doesn't have that ability. So, and I'm not, I'm not talking crap. I'm just trying to say is that like, having a good fundamental understanding of music goes beyond the bass trombone. And so, yeah, like that's kind of how it got to be that I guess I can play jazz on bass trombone or play language on bass trombone. And I've done plenty of transcriptions, and it's all there. Thinking about going back, and like, you know, all of this was like pre-internets, that like Instagrams. I should go back, unhash them and play them, and you know, all of that stuff. But yeah, I can say like I checked the boxes and did all of that stuff, and I'm grateful for it. And now when I listen to music, I hear it. But as far as playing jazz bass on the bass trombone, it's not special. It's just, I mean, I think if you think it's special, then you're thinking about it wrong. Like, this is an instrument, a chromatic instrument that has all the capabilities of playing music. It's just music. Just play music. It happens to be low. So that means that maybe you have to be a little, you have to have, there's some harmonic considerations you have to have, that you have to have control over, and understanding when you're being functional and when you're playing extensions. But a lot of the times I'm like, screw it. Like, give me some sharp 11s, like below the Gary Lindsay lower interval limit. That's what I need. Come on, let's go. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God. You know
Gary
what?
Lindsay.
Last week we were talking about it a little bit, like how the bass trombone is just like every other instrument. Like, we think about it like, and we were talking about, because a lot of times people be like, well, especially since the hashtag 8vbebop came alive, like, you're thinking everybody has to play bebop, but it's not really the case. We have, like, just like with any other instrument, like a bunch of different varieties of like languages and like styles and flavors and colors for every instrument. So like, I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a thing where especially in our academic culture, we have to be honest that jazz, codified jazz and classical music reign supreme. And obviously, I mean, the university comes, I mean, if you ask some people, the university comes from Africa, from Kemet in Egypt or whatever. But our university here comes from Europe, and there's a certain style and a certain type of music, and there's a certain what's the word, a qualitative system that belongs to Europe. And then also, especially post World War II, um, music turned into science. All of the, like, the Schoenberg stuff and all of that stuff. This is when we were, you know, developing the atom bomb and the computer and all of this stuff. You get this music that's coming out, that's the the proof of it, or like it being cogent, mathematically cogent, is more important than actually how it aesthetically sounds and appeals, like the philosophy behind it. And so we're putting more and more numbers to the sounds, you know, like physics and all of these things are making more. And so now fast forward, you know, it's no wonder that the codifiable side of jazz, you know, the median language of jazz, as that can be written down, the parts of it that can be written down are seen as better, you know. And that's just how it works, you know. I mean, fortunately, when, you know, when you leave your bubble, your academic bubble, and then you go to a place like New York specifically, where people are playing all types of stuff that you don't even know what they're doing, somehow don't know what they're, but it's still music, and it makes people feel good in spite of you checking a certain box. Then you realize, like, the world is a big place, and, you know, and I'm very grateful for that, to be honest. You know, I mean, dude, I got so blind by playing with Slavic Soul Party. I'm like, yo, what scale is that? They're like, it's like kind of like a you know, you know, I mean, they know it's like a, you know, it's bad scale, but then when you do the thumb, and they're like, all right, and then they play something. I'm like, what? Like, are you serious? Yeah, like, let me get my, you know. But anyways, so I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to talk crap, because I think it's important to, like, these, and you know, when everything is scaled back, like, I go back to the fundamentals. You know, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to studying Lydian chromatic method, and I want to memorize some more, some, you know, 251 licks, and like all 12 keys. And um a friend of mine, Marcus Tinney, he really put it in a really great light of, like, dude, just take the stuff you actually like. Don't take what is right. Take, you know, listen to a recording of a player, and then take that. Be motivated by that. Anyways, I don't know if I'm digressing.
one of the questions that got submitted was talking about acquiring language. So you just like went off like on,
Okay.
I mean, we all come from, I think, well, me and Chris studied with the same teacher, so our playing's a little bit similar, but I mean, all of us have completely different sounds, different ways of approaching improvising. So it's like super amazing to hear like your approach. Can you talk a little bit more about like maneuvering that in the bass trombone register? That was one of the questions, like maneuvering it through
Okay.
the valves.
Okay. Yeah. So the first, I mean, and like I just want to like, yeah, the difference. I didn't know how to read chord changes until I was 26 years old. Like I didn't, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's when I went to my master's. You know, like everything was by ear and intuition, for better or for worse. You know, which is great, and I'm glad I did that, and it was a lot of fun. As far as the bass trombone goes, I will say that it's weird. It's so I guess I should I'll go for a micro. Um, the bass trombone, it should just play melodies. You know, I always tell students that you have to play melodies you're interested in and that you're hearing. And I ask them like, what's the most recent album you listen to that's non-jazz, non-classical? And then they'll be like, oh, I listen to Muse or I listen to Britney Spears or whatever. And I'm like, go play that in the bass trombone register, you know? Or like, I mean, take something that wasn't written for bass trombone and play it in the bass trombone register. Because unfortunately, our whole entire life, the majority of the music we're playing is not a melody. And because of the physics of music, you know, we're mostly playing disjunct functional sounds that like are not conjunct. They are mostly quartal based because that's just how bass lines work, which can be dope, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's not a lot of the times if you take, man, if I gave you a Thad Jones part, actually Thad Jones is pretty dope. Never mind. If I gave you, if I gave you the Joe Schmo big band chart and I told you to play it by yourself as a bass trombone player, it would be trash. It would sound terrible. I don't care how killing you are. But actually, well, not all of them. I mean, yeah, like those Minster charts are dope.
Yeah.
Like those Minster charts could stand by themselves.
Speaking
You know what I
of
mean?
Mincer,
But like, yeah, but like, but if I gave you the lead alto part, or the first tenor part, or the lead trumpet, or even the fourth trumpet part, and I told them to play it by himself with the rhythm section, it would sound melodic for the most part, you know. And so imagine our whole entire lives, like what we've been given, we haven't even been given a chance. Like the you know, we don't. It's not that like improvising on bass trombone is hard. It's just like it's just not a thing that happens naturally.
yeah.
So let me take that back. If someone from the time they were young, like Wyatt, was given melodies to play on their instrument, on their bass trombone, they would be playing melodies on their bass trombone. And it's I think it's a matter of conditioning. And so going forward, in order to like reach the bass trombone, it's about just playing music. If without even trying to think about technical considerations, if you try to just play music that you like in the bass trombone register, you're going to figure out how it comes out on the instrument. And then you're going to realize, and then this is where you get into the technical considerations. You're going to realize that, oh, well, maybe I should try to figure out a way to get from A flat to B flat to C without really having to move any positions, because every time I move my slide like more than 2 positions, because it's so low, it just messes everything up, you know. And then you just start to really out the correct ergonomic routing for the bass trombone. For me, I was obsessed with finding as many slide positions as I can in the valves, well, like moving valves. And so the longest, if I could go six notes without having the tongue, that's what I would do. My from the bass trombone is a little more melismatic. It's more than it is ta 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 ta. You know, and that's why is because for the sake of speed, it's always that's been my goal. Did you catch the whole thing about as many slide positions, as many notes without tonguing as possible?
Yes, yeah.
You know, so you're creating as many breaks in the low register with the valves. And dude, I mean, I did the math. Like, there's around there's excuse me, I just said I did the math. There's 7 or 8 different ways to play middle F on the bass trombone. So just imagine how tight that net is. There's so many different possibilities within the vowels with with all of your overtone sets coalescing, especially as you get higher, then start to become more redundant. And so for me, it started that way, and then slowly I've been adding in more articulation, doodle tonguing and double tonguing, and especially since moving to New York, articulation is very important here. And then also I just want to be articulate. I took a lesson from Bill Reichenbach, and that's what he said. He was like, "Hey man, like he's like, this is killing. You sound killing, but you sound like a really young like virtuoso violinist. Like you're getting the stuff out there, but your time is just not happening." And so he suggested I do doodle tonguing in the low register, and that's really helped out a lot. I mean, I could go into specifics. I'm not going to go into specifics. But I think for me, there's no such thing as alternates. And it's just the spectrum of color, and you should know how everything works and where each note lands on each overtone series, every side of your horn. So you have 4 trombones in your hand. And so yeah, I don't want I don't want to get too deep into it, but yeah. So that being said, I mean, again, you have to know the right job. I'm not on a thing against classical players. I'm pretty sure that Brahms or whoever was writing for trombone, he was not thinking about the G flat side of the horn. The G flat side of the horn did not exist until the early 80s, late 70s. You know what I mean? And so like, while like G flat in first position is the same exact overtone series and the same length of tubing as fifth position G flat. Same with the there are redundant overtone series that exist. You just have to know that if I'm playing a B flat and it's part of the third partial, which are like low B flat is, right, on the B flat side of the horn, it's going to have a different overtone profile than if I were to play a B flat in third position with the F trigger, because that's going to be our, what is that? That's hold on, am I getting this right? Okay, excuse me. It's the second it's the second partial on the B flat side. It's going to be the third partial on in the F trigger on third position on the F side of the horn, And so you're bringing in, like, scientifically, you're bringing 2 different like color profiles, And so knowing when to use the open side of the horn, just be smart about it. Like, unfortunately, there's an axiom that you should only use certain parts of the horn when you absolutely had to. But I think that, like, outside of like certain, period music, I think those axioms can be put away, because we have different equipment now that has overcome a lot of that stuff. When I was born, the modern bass trombone, as we see it now, was like, it's completely intact. And so to me, I don't think we should see a F trigger as the first trigger or G flats as the second trigger. They should all just be, they're just part of the note, the whole horn.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the way to go about it, is just really knowing your options, and then choosing your options based off of like what you need ergonomically and musically. I mean, there are times where I played F in the staff with the second trigger in flat at second position, just so I could tune it better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just so I could tune it better. I'm not playing in an orchestra right here. I'm playing in the situation, or like there's certain situations where sometimes those notes actually blend better with who I'm playing with, And so, like, the more you're aware of all of those things, especially once you start to reach a certain terminal velocity on the bass trombone, the better off you are, because you won't doing to quote my man Austin Sievert, you won't be doing any sludge pumping. What up, Austin?
Dude, that's
Okay.
so good.
Okay, great. All right. Does that answer the question, or do you want me to keep going?
No, I think that was awesome. We had a comment from Jennifer Wharton. She said that she's noticed her students use the second valve way more than she does. So she thinks as an instrument we are evolving, which is exactly what you were saying. Like
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. And I mean the next level is double trigger in the staff, yo. Get it.
One thing that really interested me with what you were saying is like, my brother's wife is a French horn player, and nobody ever gives French horn players beef for using, the second or third part of the triple horn.
he said.
I mean, at the end of the day, and this is, I want to get back to this, like all this beef is just created. Like the people who have beef with all of this, they've never cut me a paycheck. And so, you know what I mean? And so like I think that's it. And like that's the proof is in the pudding. And that's why in spite of whatever degrees of knowledge I ever get in my life, accredited degrees of knowledge, like the last thing that you heard from me is I'm hoping that's what's the most important thing,
Yeah.
and I think it's important that you know, yeah, there's all the theories out there. Like I'm working on a book, and I mean, I have it. I just have to like put it out there. All of this stuff, but at the end of the day, like what it sounds like is what's important. And so if it sounds good and it's working for you, do it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if it's quote unquote wrong. Like if the note is on it's almost, it reminds me of when I was like young playing video games with my cousin. Like like the fighting games, you pin someone up against the corner, and then you use just one move over and over and over again for like 5 minutes, and then you beat them, and then they'd be like, you're cheating. It's just like, no, dude, the game let me do it. This is not cheating. You just don't know how to get out of this. And so like if it's on the bass trombone, play it.
That's it.
I just feel like I need a moment of silence for that. We mentioned it last week. If we just talk about the bass trombone like it's any other instrument,
It is.
Yeah.
It is. That's the problem, is that it is. I think it's better. That's why I would rather have a tenor trombone. I have a tenor trombone, but I didn't accept any tenor trombone gigs without having my double trigger. But anyways, I mean, it just is what it is.
So you have on your website, reginaldchapman.com, you have like your
Yes.
trigger tricks. So if anybody wants to like peep over to reginaldchapman.com, he has like videos that have like the worksheets up so you can see the exercises to hook up your second register. So can you talk about your process of putting together your record? This last one?
So prototype, a good, that's a tough question. That came out, man, it came out like 2-3 years ago now, like right when I moved to New York. So like 2 summers ago. And I recorded the 2 or 3 summers before that. And there's actually an answer to prototype that's going to be coming out on the Fresh Selects label, which was recorded around the same time, maybe a little bit later. Yeah, it's just music that I wrote over the years, and I called up the homies, and my guy, it happens to be the rhythm section from Butcher Brown, recorded just songs that I had in my catalog. And I called up the trombone homies, Ben Ford and Reggie Pace from No BS, and Brian Hooten from No BS, and Carl Lydon, who I knew from the Disney band. Called him up, and we did all the trombone stuff. There's one track on there that has it's called Jebish. That was it was written in the style of one of my favorite free jazz trombone players, Jeb Bishop, who played with Vandermark 5. Let's see. There's like sort of a freedom song on there, We Shall Overcome, played in the style of Elvin Jones, McCoy Tyner, John Coltrane type vibe. Carl takes a really great solo over there. I'm doing trying to get my arranging vibes on there with some stuff. Yeah. So it's out there. You can check it out on iTunes and Spotify and all of that.
Essentially, like all the stuff that you're talking about, he has all the resources for it on reginaldchapman.com.
Yep.
So he has like the videos for all the double valve technique stuff, and then you can buy his record on his website as well. And in this day and age, it's so important to support artists because though a lot of us are working remotely, is still like a significant change in income for everyone. So we have really quick a shout out for Ron Wilkins. He does his stream every day as 3 to 4 p.m. correct? He does it on Instagram Live and Facebook Live. So he hasn't been doing it for the last couple of days because Texas allergies are a gaga. And but he's saying he's feeling better. So hopefully the streams will be up soon. So again, we scheduled this after his streams. So all you bass trombone lovers out there can go check out his stuff and then come catch our stream if you haven't had enough bass trombone for the day. And there's no such thing as too much bass trombone.
We already mentioned it, but if you want to get in contact with him, check out his website, Mr. Reginald Chapman at reginaldchapman.com, as well as his Instagram at Reg Chapman Jr. He also teaches lessons for Skype and FaceTime and all that good stuff. So, another shout out to Mike Corrigan and Best Artist Craftsmanship. You know, BAC is his supporting instrument manufacturer. Make great horns. I actually have one of the Paseo horns myself. It plays great, and he's going to be coming out with Reginald's going to be coming out with a line of Garibaldi mouthpieces pretty soon for tuba, bass trumpet, and bass trombone. So stay tuned for that. And also a quick shout out to System Blue, also partnered with BAC, that he plays. I actually checked out Lucky Chops in Detroit, and he was playing on his Systems Blue Contra. It's like amazing sounding instrument. So, yeah.
Just be, oh, he's back!
He returns.
Oh yeah, I got lessons. Yeah, record out there. Keep peeled for more work, more records. I mean, got records done. I got a prototype remix record is going to be coming out soon. Some guys from the Roots did some remixes. Also, just like lo-fi guys and producers out in LA. If you're into that, I've another record that Foxygen is going to be on. Is dope. I'm working on a large ensemble record, which has proven crazy in this day and age. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, shout out to my mom, who made all this, and dad who made all this pasta. Shout out to Dave Taylor who was watching, Jim Pugh. Oh yeah, I wanted to be Dave Taylor for the longest time,
Don't we all?
I still do, Dave. I still do. but yeah, I don't. That's kind of it, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that.
Low enough.
Thanks a lot. Thank you guys. You guys are amazing. You guys sound amazing. I'm glad to have been able to play with you, Gina and Chris. It was great hanging with you out and also wait, is your brother your twin?
No,
little
3 years
little
apart.
secret here. I've known Chris's brother. I knew him for like 3 years. we went to school together.
That's funny.
Do you know this guy, Reginald Chapman? I was like, do I know this guy, Reginald Chapman? Yeah, I made trombone combo with him. I was like,
yeah, trombone. You guys in your perfect pitch, and you're just, no, but tell him I said what's up, man. Man, I just found I had this student who we found out he had perfect pitch in the lesson, in the Skype lesson. I'm like, he was like 8th grade tuba player, and I would just play stuff, and he'd be like, oh, and I'm like, dude, how did you know that? He started fingering the lip slurs, and so he was just playing them by ear and not just doing slur. And I'm like, wait, how did you know what, and anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of it.
Amazing. No, this was really fun. I'm so glad that you did this with us. I'm glad that we figured out the Zoom thing to do it on Facebook, because we have Bass Trombonists on Facebook, Bass Trombone Appreciation, all this stuff, and we're glad to be able to directly connect with them. And then, of course, we also will be recording this for anybody who like didn't see last week's episode, if you want to call it. We have it on a playlist, so you can go onto my artist page, and it has the link to the playlist. And this will be up by Friday, so you guys can come listen, watch all the bloopers, everything, all the cool stuff. So yeah, pump it. Thank you everybody for watching.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching.
We'll be back next week.
That's right. With who? We don't know.
Bye guys.
8vbebop.